Kia ora Arno, and welcome back to the main stage of IMNZ's Virtual Leadership Summit. Apologies for our slightly delayed start for our next speaker. Obviously, Mayor Barry's, the initial presentation there from Mayor Barry went a little bit over time, and the Q&A currently still just going on, sort of wrapping up very shortly, has been particularly engaging over in session. So we didn't want to cut that short and create that dilemma whether people stay in Q&A or come back here to the main stage, but we'll crack on with it now. It's gone 10:05. So I'm very pleased to announce, to introduce our next speaker, leadership expert and IMNZ facilitator, Nick Preddle. Now, this presentation will be slightly different to our previous one, as Nick's actually going to give a teaser training event, and that will also be followed by a live Q&A session. So Nick, if you want to jump up here onto the main stage now. This proved to be an interesting and valuable session last time we saw you. So Nick, you're here now. Thank you. Welcome. Good to see you again. I'll leave, and we look forward to listening to you this teaser leadership experience. So good luck, and we'll see you soon.
Kia ora, Trisham. Thank you. Tēnā koutou katoa, and hello everyone, and lovely to be here and lovely to see you all on this third series of this three-part leadership summit, which has been an incredible deep dive into this topic of leadership. And I know that those of you that have been along for this journey, I'm sure, are taking a lot of value from it. My name is Nick Preddle, and it is a great privilege to be here today. And I'm very proud to be one of a team of very passionate and talented presenters and facilitators who lead up the IMNZ's wonderful array of professional development programs. My expertise is in leadership and team performance, and I am part of the team that delivers the team Leader Essentials program and also the Elevate program, which are now available both in face-to-face training and also online, which is a new initiative for IMNZ, which is very exciting opportunity to have people join us for online training now. My presentation for today is entitled How to Lead Teams and Influence People and to Provide Constructive Feedback. And as Tristram said, I'm just going to share my screen. As Tristram said, it is a little bit of a taster, if you like, of the types of training, the types of experience that you can get, the kind of learning that you can have if you jump on board and be part of some of our training programs. So hopefully my screen is now shared and you can see my screen. Hopefully it's working as per the trial we just went through. So how to lead a team, how to influence others, how to provide constructive feedback. The first thing, in terms of leading a team is one really needs to be able to lead yourself. You must know yourself. And by this, in terms of this context, what we mean by that is your moral compass, and in terms of what you stand for. Leaders need followers, and followers need leaders. And this relationship is the key to this relationship is followers understanding what the leader stands for. So understanding where you are on certain aspects, where you are on certain themes, what you think about things, what's your moral fiber. So understanding that very, very clear, asking yourself, where do I stand on things, so people can then follow you. What you find is that when you are very clear about what you stand for, people, an incredible thing happens in leadership. People start to follow you even in your absence because they know exactly what you stand for. They know what your compass is, and they are guided by that compass even in your absence. It's quite a powerful experience, a thing that actually happens in genuine leadership when the leader is very strong about what they stand for. So know yourself, know what you stand for. In terms of leading teams, I like to use the analogy of a team, and this can be a team, a group, a community, even a single person that you are leading. Think of it like a house. A house has a foundation, a house has a framework, and then a house has a roof and walls and cladding to keep it safe from the environment. So the foundation is absolutely critical. If you get the foundation right, then you can start to build a strong team and lead with certainty. So the foundation is things like the safety of the people inside your team, the psychological safety. People feel like they are in the right place, that you have their back, that this is the right place for them. Sense of belonging. This is my tribe. This is where I belong. A shared mission, a shared vision, and knowing what the plan is, knowing where we're going, and the values. So So think of these things as like the foundations, like the cornerstones of leading a solid team. Issues around conflict tend to point to one of these things being absent. So a leader wants to be really clear about building that solid foundation. The second aspect, once you've got a solid foundation, is your framework. And your framework, using again the house, the building analogy, it's the framework of the house. And this is the standards, the guidelines, the policies. This is how. So this is more of the foundations is the why stuff. Why are we here? Why are we doing what we're doing? What is the purpose of all this? The framework is more the what. What do we do? How do we operate? Standards, guidelines, policies. So putting in place those, it builds a solid framework, but it has to be on top of that solid foundation first. The third part is what I often refer to the flow, but it's the cladding to protect you from the external environment. All those things out there, your competitors, who are trying to undermine what you're doing, like so. This is the processes. This is the workflow. This is the systems. That's the third part of leading a team in terms of providing a solid framework for the team. So what we find is where there are issues around performance, that points to something missing in terms of the framework, or something missing in terms of the processes or the flow. So as a leader, in terms of leading a team, you have the opportunity to ask yourself, which of these three elements might be missing that's causing either a conflict or a lack of performance capability within the team. And if you're able to identify where the issue is, so issues of conflict tend to suggest that the foundation is a bit shaky, and we need to dig some piles. We need to get some concrete in there and get around the team and get clear about making sure people belong in this team. We understand what our shared vision is. We understand what our values are. If there's issues more around performance, then we need to have a look at our framework. What's our framework? How are our policies clear? Are our guidelines clear? And then we look at systems and processes as the third part, the systems part that sits over the top of that framework. So some insights there into how to lead a team and understand what your role is in that, which is understanding each of those three elements and being clear about each of those three elements. In terms of influencing people, influence can be determined into, or divided into four different styles of influence. There are four different essential ways in which we influence people. We influence through being directive, we influence through being persuasive, we influence through being collaborative, and we influence through being inspiring. And what tends to happen in leadership is that leaders tend to adopt one of these styles of influence, but an aware leader is able to identify the situations where it is appropriate to influence in different ways. And just having that awareness gives us some insight into the way that we can influence people in different situations, because you will find yourself as a leader in different situations needing to influence in different ways. So people will respond to different situations. So let's have a look at this. We use this push-build system for identifying and getting some insight into the different influencing systems. So the first one is the directive, which is what we talk about as a push system. So it's leader giving information to somebody else. So push is where you are pushing your own views. You are using quite a controlling sort of style, and the expectation is that others will follow what you're asking them to do. It's about telling someone to do something. And this is very appropriate when quick action is required, particularly if there's a safety issue or something that has to be done here and now. A quick decision is required, and this is what we're doing. And you're the authority when you've got that absolute authority to do that. And the kind of language that is employed with the directive style of influence is stronger language, like I want, I expect, I need. The problem, however, with directive style of influence is that it can definitely come across as quite bossy. It can generate a negative emotion and response in people, and so it should be limited in its use for those very specific situations where a very quick action is required in that sort of situation. That's the first style of influence, which is being directive. The second style of influence is another push, what we call a push, which is information coming from the leader to the person receiving the information is more of a persuasive style. And with persuasion, you are asserting your views using logic. You're trying to win the minds of the audience through using compelling arguments, through backing it up with facts, with examples, and you'll tend to employ more of a debating and discussing style around your attempt to influence the actions of another. Now, persuasive influence is very appropriate when you're seen as very knowledgeable in an area, when you have a track record, but where buy-in is required. So where you are really asking the person to step into something and come along for the ride. And again, the types of language, it tends to be starting with an I statement because it is more of a push situation, but it's more, I suggest, I propose, I recommend, like so. Now, if overused, again, it has a downside. And that is, if overused, it can come across as a little bit of lecturing, and being that you're a know-it-all, and can again generate some negative responses amongst the receiver of the information. So we move into the build side of the sphere of influence, and this is where you're looking to a more the first style is a collaborative style, and this is where you may present your views, maybe as a starting point. So you might say, well, here's my view of the thing. What do you think? You're focusing very much here on sharing ideas and understanding. You're seeking insights. You're getting the views of others, and it's about listening. And very much the role of the leader in this, using the collaborative style of influence, is about asking lots of questions. We use the term long lever questions, where you're, as opposed to what do you think, you're asking things along the lines of, if we were to work together as a team to solve this problem, what would be the benefits for the client? So you're starting to ask very long levered type questions where you're getting the person you're working with to come forward with their own ideas, and you're working together to solve them. Very appropriate when you're definitely not an expert. You can't step into a room and be the expert on something. Then you want to collaborate with people in terms of influencing them. Certainly when the issue is complex, you really need to problem solve and get people on board and discuss and work things through. And certainly when a high level of commitment is required from the people that you're looking to influence and get on board with an idea. And we change our language when we're using a collaborative style. So it's more, as I mentioned, question style. So what do you think? And what you're saying is this, trying to clarify and mirror what someone's information you're giving to try and understand their point of view. And can you help me understand? So that's the type of language which you use in this collaborative style influencing. If overused and used ineffectively, it can come across as a little bit wishy-washy and uncertain and lacking authority. So again, it's a matter of having that awareness around which style of influence to use in the given situation. And the fourth style, which is the building style of influence, and this is the one that some of the great leaders of our time have been so super effective at using. If you think of your Martin Luther Kings and your Barack Obamas and these people who have this gift, but it doesn't have to be just those people. Everyone can build and influence in a very inspiring way. It's just understanding how to go about it. And the inspiring way of influence is around creating through your language a possible future or vision. So you're focusing on winning the hearts of the people that you're looking to influence by tapping into their emotions, tapping into their imagination. And it's very much about storytelling and using visual references. I'll give you an example. Working with a team, for example, around a health and safety issue, you could be saying something along the lines of, imagine if we get to Christmas and we haven't had a single incident on our health and safety register. Wouldn't that just be an amazing accomplishment? People are able to see the future vision. They're able to see what it is that you're asking them to imagine, and then it's easier to step in and get buy into that situation. Very appropriate when there's a future situation. Very appropriate where there is some sort of innovation required or new thinking required to a situation. And again, the language changes. So the language becomes about imagine if, I'm really committed to, we all believe that. So it's a very enrolling kind of conversation. And but it has to be used appropriately. And this is the key point about having that awareness about which situation to employ the different technique. And if overused, this inspiring style of influence can come across as being a bit idealistic or patronizing, and credibility can be lost in that situation if not used appropriately. So influencing others, very big part of being a leader, and some insights there into the 4 different styles of influencing someone to take action or to come along for the ride. The third part of my presentation today is all about the power of feedback. Feedback is a big part of a role of a leader. In neuroscience terms, humans experience feedback as either social threat or social reward. And so we have to be very careful in the way that we use feedback. The natural response to feedback, if it is seen as a social threat, is either fight or flight. So it's either I'm out of here, I don't want to know, or conflict. So understanding the power of feedback is a really important skill in terms of a leader. There are 3 basic types of feedback: negative feedback, positive feedback, and constructive feedback. So let's have a look at how and when to give feedback. Negative feedback diminishes confidence. It creates no positive outcome, and basically good leaders know never to use it. So negative feedback is something, we say if you don't have something constructive to say in terms of the feedback, it's best not to give it. So negative feedback, we effectively say don't use it. All it serves to do is diminish confidence and put people into that neuroscience response of social threat. Positive feedback. This is the most underutilized form of feedback, and not just in the workplace, but in life. Everyone likes to know when they're performing. But here's the key to positive feedback. It needs to be genuine and it needs to be specific. If I just say to somebody, "Oh, John, you're doing a fantastic job, keep it up," the first thing John thinks is, "Oh, well, what am I doing a good job at? And are they genuine?" So positive feedback, vital that we give it, but if we give it in a genuine and specific way. So John, I really love the way that you presented that report, or I really love the way that you backed up Sally in the meeting that we had when she came up with an idea and you got him behind and backed her up. I'd love you to continue doing that. It really works for our team. So that type of genuine, specific feedback is the way to give positive feedback. But key outtake is it's very underutilized, and encourage you to jump on board with giving a lot of positive feedback to people. Constructive feedback is really the one that people want to know about. And how do we give feedback when we're looking to change some behavior or address a situation? And if done effectively, it can be very empowering. It can affect change. It can actually inspire trust and gain respect between people. So, but it needs to be delivered effectively. So the first thing to do when looking to change a situation or provide some constructive feedback is to make sure you separate the person from the problem. So the person understands that that's something that they've done or something their behaviour as opposed to them, and then they're able to step into the situation where they can actually take on board the feedback that you're giving. Inside our training in the IMNZ leadership training modules, we take you through a number of different feedback situations or systems to adopt. AID is the one that I've chosen for the purposes of this presentation, and there are some key steps that you would take, that you go through to make sure that your feedback is very constructive and actually has the result intended. The first step is to always ask for permission from the person. This is super important, having the person buy into the situation. So actually asking them, there's something I want to talk to you about. Is can we have that conversation now, or is it okay that we have that conversation, or setting up a time that it's appropriate to have that conversation. So the second step is choosing an appropriate time and place, and that's given a little bit by the context of the situation, the thing that you're looking to provide the feedback on. It can be appropriate just to have it here and now in a conversation, or it can be more appropriate to say, "Hey, I'd really like to talk to you about something. Can we do that tomorrow at such and such time?" And choosing a place that's appropriate as well, making sure that if it's something that's a little bit sensitive, then you're doing it in a safe and private situation. The AID model takes us through 3 very key steps. And the first one, in actually delivering the piece of constructive feedback that you're looking to impart, is to describe the behaviour. So I'll use an example. Ian, at our meeting the other day, Sally made a suggestion, and you rolled your eyes in the meeting. So you're describing the behaviour that took place and being quite specific about that. In that sort of situation, you might say something like, "Hey, look, it's actually okay to disagree with someone, but to roll your eyes is really not okay." And at that point, you're moving into the impact of the behaviour, where you're describing very, very carefully what the impact of the behaviour is. So you're trying to remove. This is part of this whole thing of removing the person from the actual behaviour. So the impact of that in that situation is, there's a lack of willingness for others to put forward ideas at meetings, and we really value people's contribution. It sets a terribly bad example for other members of, particularly our junior staff or our junior members of our team. So laying out the impact on, say, the individuals, the team, the organisation, thinking of all those impacts that particular behaviour has, and then explaining to the person what is the agreed outcome, what is the desired situation we're trying to remedy, what's the future that we're trying to create here. And the future in this situation would be asking the person, "Can I rely on you, please, to stop doing that in future? Is that something that you can do?" And you actually ask the question of the person so that they have the opportunity then to step in and agree to desist from doing something, or to step up and do something, depending on the situation, the thing that you're looking to impact the change of behaviour or change of situation. When you follow through these very, very simple and clear steps, what we find is that the effect of giving the feedback is just like 50%, 70% more likely to be successful. Thanking the person for their contribution and then following up on what's been agreed. It's very, very key, that fifth step there, the desired outcome, the agree to the outcome, that the person actually agrees to do that. And when you elicit that response and elicit that firm commitment, then the results in terms of imparting some change of behaviour, or making sure that your feedback is constructive and effective, is incredibly more likely to happen, take place. So I think we've come to pretty much the time for our presentation today. So just to summarise, this presentation has been around how to lead teams, how to influence people, and how to give constructive feedback. It's time has not allowed a super deep dive into these topics, but I hope that it's given you some insight into some ways that, as a leader, you can be more effective in these areas. So in summary, you can think of leading a team a little bit like building a house. There's a foundation that needs to be built, and that's the cultural side of things. So it's working on the team culture. The framework is around the guidelines, the expectations, the standards. It's the what, how. It's the what do we do, the how do we implement our culture. Then on top of that is the flow, the framework, where we talk about actually systems and processes. And what we find is that conflicts within teams tend to be something where there's something missing in your foundation, and lack of performance seem to suggest that there's something missing in terms of your framework or your flow. There are 4 ways that we typically influence people, and each of these 4 ways are appropriate to different situations. As a leader, if we can have awareness about the different ways of influencing people and practice the different styles, we can be more nimble and agile in our ability to influence people and effectively get people to take action on the things that they were looking for them to take action on. Leaders understand the real power of feedback. They know that negative feedback is not appropriate, and that positive feedback is super underused and something that can be done, but needs to be done genuinely and with specifics. Constructive feedback, if done well, can be empowering. It can build trust and can build respect. So that is brings me to the end of this part of the presentation. I would just like to thank you for your ears. I hope that you take some value from that presentation. We have some Q&A coming up shortly, and I look forward to hearing your questions and the opportunity to, just embellish a little bit more on some of those topics of conversation.
Absolutely, and that will happen in the QA. So many fascinating insights there, Nick. I found that incredibly interesting. Thank you so much for that. So if you want to head over to sessions now, and anybody that does have questions, I can see a number coming in there. If you too click the sessions tab on the left of your screen, head over for a 10-minute live Q&A with Nick right now. You'll be able to engage with Nick either by video or just in the chat and ask him any questions you want. Suzanne, of course, will be over there moderating questions. Don't forget, our next presentation will be here on the main stage, let's say in about 10 minutes from now. And this will be with one of New Zealand's most talked about leaders, a real star of our previous, of the summit and the webinar last week. This is Sinead Boucher, CEO, and as of May, the owner of the Stuff Media Group. Real highlight, as I say, so we thought we'd bring back her pre-recorded presentation. You can catch that here on the main stage after Nick's Q&A at around 10:40. See you then.